Welcome back to Learning with Merit. Today we are talking about more primitive types. In this case, we're dealing with floating point data types, or types that we traditionally would call a decimal number whenever we're just talking with other people and discussing numbers. So when we look at this, our first floating point type is called a float. It has a size of 4 bytes, and it's going to store our fractional numbers. This is sufficient for storing up to 6 or 7 decimal digits. If we look at this right here, we have float value equals 3.141592, and it ends with an F. Of course, that special number is pi. We need to remember that the precision of a float is only 6 or 7 decimal digits, and the reason why is if you are going to include this part right here in the ones place, then you only get 6 decimal digits. If you do not include that there, then you can have 7 decimal digits of precision. Then if we remember down here, the float value is going to end with an F. You always want to make sure that you include the F there. Now, if you do not include the F, it will default to our next value here, which is called a double. The double is a size of 8 bytes, and it's going to store fractional numbers as well, and it's good for up to 15 digits of precision here. And so what we end up with is we say double value. This is a very long number here. Want to know what special number that is? That one you can look up. 2.71 is a good math number. Anyway, we need to also remember the precision of a double is about 15 digits and that we should usually use a D, but I will tell you that the default for Java is to just assume that it is a double if you use a fractional value like this, and so the default is to use a double instead of a float value. So it's more important that you use an F with a float than using a D with a double. Next, we can also include scientific numbers, and this is very helpful, especially if you understand how scientific numbers work. If you want to include rather large scientific numbers, this is very, very useful because you'll notice e to the 23 would be a very large value that we couldn't store otherwise. So scientific numbers can be indicated using e. This indicates a power of 10, so 10 to the what power, right? So we say double our scientific number. This is 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd power, and of course we're storing that as a double because we have to have the decimal portion. And that special number, you can look that one up too. That is Avogadro's number, and I believe this one up here, if you didn't want to look it up, is Euler's number, or the value for small e that you see on your calculator. All right, that covers our special floating point types. This is if we're going to use any type of fractional value. There are a couple things that we need to keep in mind with them, especially when it comes to precision and how we should label them. And of course, we should remember that we can use scientific numbers in Java as well. It will make it a lot easier for us when we're using big numbers. Thank you for watching Learning with Merit.